one of the things that I have noticed about the way that you get into your characters is you sink your teeth right into them, and it's not as though you haven't played characters that are of the darker side that explore their darker side. Do you find a common thread with the characters that you play, or is it a clean slate every single time?
Ah, wow, good question. I think it kind of has to be a clean slate because they're different people. Um, but more, I mean, as you kind of go along and work long enough as an actor and think enough about emotion and feelings and how people respond to stimuli and impulse, you start to realize that there are only a few basic things people do. I mean, we're all layered and very complex and don't react especially how you expect us to all the time, but there are 5 or 6 basic things that people react to or feel. So those overlaps are there for sure, but I try very, very, very consciously to not let other characters or other ways of doing things influence it, because I know that there are, now just technically speaking, there are certain ways to communicate something, by a blink of an eye or by a certain look or a certain feeling.
Right.
And I know those are patterns that I've kind of, now that I've worked long enough, I know that they are there. I know that I could default to that. That I've played enough dark characters that I know how to look at a camera and feel mean. The second that starts to happen, I get very scared because that means that I'm getting very complacent, or I'm setting patterns, and I'm not putting all that I can into something. I'm not leaving a piece of myself behind if I do that. So I try very consciously to not let that happen. Of course, it's inevitable because I'm a human being, and sometimes things overlap, and sometimes things are the same. But I try very, 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 very hard not to let that happen. So great question, caught me off guard. I didn't expect anyone to ask that. But yes, it's true. It does kind of bleed into one another at times, and you have to make sure it doesn't happen because everyone's different.
For this particular character, I mean, it's interesting. It's the world of politics. It's dark, and power, and the hunger for power is just so apparent.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about whether you try to find anything you could identify with yourself, because and is that important?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's another great question. I definitely got excited about this story and about this part because of that sort of power and that greed, and that sort of like, I'll do anything to get what I want, and it's funny because politics is supposed to be for the benefit of the people, but the people who are doing it are actually just really power hungry people, so it's like this weird thing that really excited me when I heard the script, because I was like, what kind of mental makeup is it of someone who wants that much power? And fortunately or unfortunately, Bollywood and Hindi cinema or any cinema across the world is kind of a great parallel to it. I've seen a lot of people like that. I've met a lot of people like that. I mean, I never got it because it's not what drives me. Power does not drive me at all.
Right.
Work drives me, acting drives me, stories drive me, characters drive me. So I always, and I'm quite, I mean, I'll admit it, I'm very naive. I mean, yeah, and as every year goes by, I realize how naive I actually am. So I never actually realized that there are people here who are in it for the power and just for the fame and just for the glam and the money, which is stupid. I know it sounds stupid as I say it, but the fact that I never focused on that or never thought of that. But as I started working more and more, I realized, whoa, a lot of people are like this. And a lot of people do the work they do to preserve the power they have. And I drew a lot of parallels to my character, to some people I've met along my journey here. I steal a lot from real life when I act, people I've met, things I've seen, whether that's from a look perspective or from a language perspective or a sound, a certain octave of the voice perspective. I always steal from what I see. And there are a couple of people that, I've sort of mixed into Hindu that I've seen that know nothing, else but grabbing power and will do it at any extent possible. And they don't know any other way. So it's kind of, I feel bad for them almost because they don't see life any other way. And I think Hindu is a bit like that.
Is it easy to snap out of the psyche of a person like that when the cut is called?
No, not really. Not really. Because it takes so long to get into it that it also takes equally long to get out of it. My wife Jyoti always, always tells me whenever I'm playing these dark, mean characters, she's like, I just don't want to be near you because you suddenly, the air around you is just no longer pleasant. And I get it,
Right.
and God bless her soul that she doesn't like kick me out of the house. I get it because I sort of stay in this space, I sort of, for the shoot duration, I did it with Taj for Flesh. I did it with Nikki Singh for Gurgaon. I just kind of stayed in a mental space. Of course, you try not to let that bleed into life. You try not to behave the people that, for example, my manager or my assistant or my spot boy. I tried really hard not to let them feel the impact of this stuff. But you do because you're also trying to test the limit of what your mind can allow you to imagine. And then you want to bring that to your work. So it's sort of a selfish thing at the cost of hurting other people a little bit. So it's like this weird fine line you have to strike. And then you have to very quickly, remind, thank God again for Jyoti, who helps me sort of snap out of it. Because when I look at her immediately, I'm sort of like, there's 16, 17 years of history between the two of us. I sort of remember who I am very quickly. But it is tough. I find it very tough. I'm not a very snap out, snap in sort of actor. I sort of feel it stays with me.
As you mentioned, like for example, Flesh is a great example. When you go into a character that is so dark and it's so hard for you to snap out of it, what makes you say yes to a character like that then? Because you have played dark characters before. So what made you say yes? And of course, let's talk about Madam Chief Minister specifically. What made you say yes to this specific one?
Yeah, so I think there's two parts to this. Anything that scares me, anything that makes me feel like, oh, I can't do that, is something that I say yes to immediately. And then I let the sort of insecurities, stay in the back of my head because I know that's the part to do. Now I'll figure out how to get there. Right now I'm not there. I have no idea how to play this part. But I know that challenge is what I'm after. So that sends like a thing in my system that's like, I don't know how to do this, therefore I must do it. So that's one. Secondly, I think I've very consciously tried to choose things that people don't expect from me. Because I think in Hindi cinema or Bollywood, as you say, there's enough people doing enough of the things that people who look like me do. So I was sort of aware of the fact that I look a certain way. People expect certain performances from me. But there are other actors who are far better at playing those parts than I could ever dream of being, and are also sort of in the Bollywood system, which I'm not. So I sort of try and choose things that make me stand out or challenge me, or that people say like, oh, I didn't expect that, or something that would grow my range as an actor. So I really, try and hunt for things like that. No matter how big or small the role is, no matter how big or small the movie is, for me the acting is the kick. It's not the popularity or anything. So what wakes me up in the morning, gets me to set, is that fear, is that nervousness of failing, of not delivering on a character. So that's what I'm hunting for mostly. Specifically with this film, beyond the fact that I've never sort of played a politician before, and I wanted to get into that mindset of somebody who's sort of manipulative and says things because he can and he has that power. And this is a very entitled human being. He comes from a lineage of politicians. I was really excited about that power. I was really excited about exploring that part of me. I'm not like that in real life. I mean, trust me, I'm not lying to you on your show here. I'm not like a very power hungry, manipulative human being. I'm quite the opposite. So I wanted to see what part of me I could bring to that. When I heard the part, I was like, ooh, this is so outside of my realm. That I must explore this side of me. And Subhash Kapoor is somebody I've really wanted to work with for a very long time. I mean, I've been chasing that man for at least, my career's been a decade long. I've been chasing him for a decade. And, saying, cast me. And I think finally he was writing this film, and I think he thought of me for this part and called me in, narrated it, and I like jumped at it immediately. It was one of those things that like I knew instantly I had to do it.
Nice. Capping off then, as a viewer, because I've seen some diverse work from you, what at the end of this film, what do you want me to take away from your specific performance?
Ooh. I hope that people in this particular role find his actions believable, because he does some wild stuff. He does some really wild, he gets up to some, I don't want to give away too much, but there are things he does that are just like, who behaves like that? Like, who talks like that? Who does it? I hope that somewhere people, I don't mean that they empathize or sympathize with him. I mean, I'm totally okay if that doesn't happen. I hope it doesn't get into a space of like, why would he do that? Or like, I don't understand his motivation, or I don't understand why he behaved that way. Or and I feel like that's something that I've been afraid of for a while, that like that could be a trap, which meant that I didn't authentically play it. So that's been my fear. That's the real insecurity. So I hope that's, people don't question that.
Actually, it's been so wonderful chatting with you. Even chatting with you about getting into characters, getting out of characters, and understanding that a little bit more is always it's always so insightful when I speak to you. So thank you so much for your time.
Well,
I
you
really
always
do
ask such great
appreciate it.
questions. I feel like I get very excited when you ask these questions, because they're things that I think about constantly, but no one seems to ask them. So thanks for doing that.
Well, you're welcome then. All the very best, and I'm looking forward to another solid performance from you.
Thank you
Thanks
so
so much.
much. I look forward to what you think about the film and my work.
Wonderful. Take care.
All right, I mean, take care. See you.